All right. Thank you very much. Thank you, all the distinguished people in the dais. Thank you, Yashoda. Um, I know I'm between you and the break, so we'll try and keep it really, really quiet, short. Yeah. Um, the way that my slides were structured was to try and see if you could talk a little bit about, and I think maybe you've got an overdose of this, in terms of why do we need AI, or what are we doing with AI in healthcare, right? But what I want to do is maybe use a few minutes just to talk a little bit about why is it important, what is the imperative, right? And I don't know if this was probably done in one of the sessions in the morning, but if it wasn't, then it's news. If it is, then it's revision. Yeah, so either way, it's good. But then I will spend the last few minutes really talking about this from an India perspective, because it's very important for us to start to think about what should India be doing. We had Ranga sir speak about what the DCGI's office is already doing. Now it is on us from the industry standpoint, startups, research groups, to kind of see what is it that we can do. So that's where we will go with this. So I think most of us would have heard about Moore's Law. Yes? Yeah? So Moore's Law, was done many years ago, 1959. And basically Moore said that the number of transistors that you can put, is going to grow exponentially. Yeah? So this is on a log scale. As you can see, this says log. And it says for the next 5 to 10 years, he was able to predict and say that this is brilliant. Moore's Law holds up for the next 5 to 10 years. Okay? But this is 1960s. We are in 2026 now. Yeah? How has Moore's Law done over the last so many years? And that is Moore's Law today. Okay? Again, still log scale. And you can see that exponentially the number of transistors that we've been able to put on microchips actually almost doubles every 2 years, right? I mean, what? We have now 19 billion transistors or something in our phones. Yes, it's incredible how amazing Moore's Law has been, yeah, for electronics. Yeah. Now we come to a different law for pharma and drugs, and we call it Irum's Law. Irum's Law is not a person. Irum's Law is the opposite of Moore's Law. So we've just taken Moore and turned it around, because this is the number of drug approvals, okay, in a log scale over time. And as you can see, unfortunately, we're going in the opposite direction. So for the money that we spend, we seem to be getting fewer and fewer drugs out. And this is, of course, FDA data, but our data is not that much better. EMEA data, all of them, kind of the same. Yeah, you see the little spike over there is probably a little after COVID or something, right? And some cancer. So it is clear that obviously there is a huge problem with pharmaceutical innovation. Yeah, and we spoke, I think, over the course of the morning, there were quite a few talks that you would have heard about what is it that we can do, right? But essentially what I want to try and boil it down to is that the problem that we have from a pharmaceutical innovation standpoint is we have 3 vertices, and the 3 vertices kind of pull at each other all the time, right? So one vertex is cost. Okay, the cost of getting new drugs keeps going up. Okay, the second is timelines. The time taken to get a new drug to the market keeps going up. And the third is success rates. Okay, and you will be shocked that the success rate for any drug that enters even phase 1 of clinical trials and which eventually makes it to the market, can you guess what that percentage would be? For every drug, for all the drugs that get into any kind of clinical trials, phase 1, and they actually make it to the market. Any guesses what the number is? Yeah, it's about 10 to 15%. Yeah, and that data has remained consistent over the last 20 years. So obviously we're not doing very well in getting more drugs approved, right? When you talk about cost, you will see that more than 75% of R&D cost actually goes towards drug development. Yeah, towards things like human testing, data collection, PV that Sir spoke about, all of that stuff, right? And again, this is the same kind of data that we're talking about. At the bottom, you see the probability of success, and you can see it hovers between 11 to 15%, right? Whereas the cost of developing the drugs go up. And this is the main reason why we have not been able to do very well in terms of new molecular entities in India, right? It costs over $1 to $2 billion. The probability of success is very low. Our risk appetite is not very high. Our money is not very great. we don't have a lot of money, right? So the root cause is essentially our operational inefficiency, high attrition rates, a lot of drugs fail. We're not very good with the biology. The complexity is very high. All the low-hanging fruit is gone. Okay, the simple stuff. Only the complicated stuff remains now, right? The simple diseases all have good drugs. And really, knowledge gaps, our understanding of the human biology, right? We really still struggle with this, okay? And so, in a way, I feel, and this is a point I want to make, is that the reason we talk so much about AI/ML in healthcare is that those three vertices that you saw, those three vertices are essentially connected. You pull at one, the other two are perturbed. You go and say, I want to decrease cost, it'll increase time, your success rate will go down. You say, I want my success rate to go up, your cost and time both will go up, right? So they're all connected. And the only way that you can impact all of them in the positive direction, in my opinion, is AI/ML, right? AI/ML allows us to do all those three things. It allows us to decrease cost by reducing the number of patients we want. It allows us to increase our probability of success by doing better with modeling. And it allows us to decrease time because we don't have to necessarily have patients in our studies only. We can look at existing data and use that for a lot of our work, right? So it actually helps us to hit all the three vertices in the direction that we want to, right? And that's why we speak so much about it, right? And this slide I think we spoke about a little bit. So where is India's opportunity, right? So we talk a lot about why do we need to do this in India, okay? So the first one that we speak about is the talent advantage, okay? Everybody says India has phenomenal talent. I am not so sure, right? I think we have a lot of good people, but we need a lot of these good people to do really good work. A lot of mediocre people is not really going to cut it for us, right? So we really need to start, investing in our very, very strong people. So that I think is something. But the good news at least is that because you have so many young people, hopefully they have not learned all the bad things yet, right? So we don't have to unlearn. We don't have to untrain them. So maybe we can train them from the get-go, right? Data infrastructure. Again, we say it is an opportunity, okay, which means that we don't do it very well right now. Okay, and the fact of the matter is, we talk about ABHM, we talk about, all of these things, but the point is that today, the data that we get, so a few years ago, we were working with some of the folks that work on, the digital Aadhaar and all of that stuff, right? We were talking to them, and TCS was also working with them, and we asked them, I said, what is the data like? And they said, well, EMR data, yeah, sure, you can pull it from the big hospitals that have EMRs. The problem is half the data is empty. Because all of us do the same thing. I go to a hospital, and the receptionist says, okay, just fill these three things for now. Because everybody's in a hurry, right? And the rest of the fields are all blank. And so which means that the data that we get is essentially not very good at this point, right? So we need to do something about our data infrastructure. I was very happy to see Ranga sir speak a little bit about saying how are we going to bring data together, right? And market expansion. Again, we are predominantly a self-payer market. Okay, we are not going to be able to spend a lot of money. So we have to do something to say how can we make drugs possible, cheap enough that our people can afford them. Right? So I feel that, I'm going to spend a little bit of time on this because, again, this is actually my last slide and I would love to have a discussion, if possible, if I finish early enough, is that in terms of our clinical research renaissance, I think these are the 4 areas where I believe that we need to really start to focus on. Yeah? I think we have tremendous tailwinds. And this is like the last slide was a, oh, I'm so disappointed slide. Okay, this slide is, oh, but I have so much hope for the future slide. Yeah. So number 1 is the PM's mandate and Biopharma Shakti. Right? The PM's mandate was about getting 100 new molecular entities from India by 2047. By the time we hit our 100th anniversary as an independent country. And for us to be able to do that, there is now money that has been allocated. With Biopharma Shakti, 1,000 new clinical trial sites, right? And a lot of us, so I represent ISCR as an organization, the Indian Society for Clinical Research. I head their AI/ML working group. And with them, we are working with the government to see how can we help them to move forward with the Department of Pharmaceutics to say, can we set up these clinical trial sites the right way? Yeah? Can we already start to do them digitally enabled? If we are having a phase 1 clinical research unit, can we have it so that people will have QR IDs on their wrist all the time, so when they go take a blood, you don't have to enter that into a system, it will automatically be read in, and so on and so forth, right? So can we set up these clinical trial sites the right way? And so for me, that is a huge opportunity for us to leapfrog how other countries are doing it today, because other countries have legacy systems. Can we do it right when we are building it ourselves, right? That's number one. Number two is talent and focus among research startup groups. I know that there is IKP is coming here, Satyaprakash Dash is coming here tomorrow. The way IKP, some of these organizations are building these startups. Every time I speak to some of these startups, it blows my mind. The research that happens there, the research that happens in some of our premier institutes. When you speak to professors at IIT Chennai, when you speak to professors at IISc Bangalore, right, some amazing work happening in that space. Is there an opportunity that we could focus this in a way that we say, this is where we want us to focus on, these are the enemies. China did an amazing job of this 20 years ago. Yeah, as a country, they said we're going to hit bispecifics. They didn't go for novel targets. They basically said we're going to go to bispecifics. So existing targets, but we're going to get one drug that's going to go and hit two targets concurrently. Yeah. Today, you should have seen ASCO, the number of Chinese biotech companies that were there. Every large pharma company in the world today has gone and bought at least one Chinese biotech company, because 20 years ago, they decided that they were going to focus on bispecific. So I think we need to figure something out. We are very good in chemistry. Could it be ADCs? I don't know, right? Antibody drug conjugates, is that where we want to go? I'm not a scientist. I'm not enough of a scientist in that space. I'm a statistician. So I think that, but I think with the right kinds of people, we need to figure out where do we focus, and can we focus all of these people in the same direction so that they can actually make some progress there, right? The third one is a little controversial, but I believe in it very strongly, right? As a statistician, one of my jobs is equipoise, right? So I come in saying, I don't know what is true or not, but I will set up the right experiment so that I can get the right answer, whichever way it is. So when you talk about things like Ayurveda, traditional medicine, right? I don't know if it works or not. It's not my job to know whether that's right. But as a statistician, I want to do it right. I think we've been hitting the wrong endpoints. I don't think that Charaka in any of his things said, with my diabetes, kashayam or tayyam or whatever it is, I am going to reduce HbA1c. He did not say that, right? HbA1c is a very new Western biomarker endpoint. So we can't go in and say that our medicines have to hit HbA1c. Charaka said that you will stop perspiring, you will stop urinating frequently, you will feel better, your wounds will start healing. So can we think about that? Can we say clinical outcome studies and go head to head? And with AI, ML, and with the data infrastructure, there is an opportunity for us to do that. So I think that is an area that we should actually start to do. Oh, my time is up. And the last one, data, especially digital data. Is there an opportunity for us to do this? There are some amazing data conglomerates, Vadhwani Institute, TCS, so many, Koita Foundation, so many good guys trying to work with hospitals, with research institutes. Can we look with the government, look at a way where we can collect all of this data, create data platforms, allow anonymous use of this data for our modeling? Because if you're able to do that, I think we will really leapfrog and be able to do what we want to do in the next 20 years. So with that, I'll stop. And I don't know if there's time for questions, but otherwise, there's always a break in questions. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, sir. As I said earlier, you can all take up the questions in the break. And I would also request the speakers, the chairpersons, and the